More than 60% of Port Macquarie residents used a referendum on Saturday to say no to plans for a privately run hospital to replace a public alternative in their town. The state government ignored the poll's result, saying the building of the private hospital would go ahead. But today, about 80 privatisation opponents travelled to Sydney to deliver a message the government couldn't ignore. They rallied at the gates of Parliament House.
We believe the government has a right and a duty to put more money into the public hospital system to boost it and not to just give them away to private enterprise, because that's what they're doing.
Newcastle residents still fighting last year's closure of Wallsend Hospital left their pickets for a day to join the protest, but the Macquarie Street gates were shut, leaving the demonstration locked out. The protesters repeatedly called for the hospital's Minister Ron Phillips and the local member Wendy Machin to come out and meet them at the gates, but to no avail. Not so reticent was opposition leader Bob Carr, who addressed the crowd.
Hospital privatisation is more expensive than the alternatives. You know that hospital privatisation means the taxpayers subsidise the profits of the private investors who own the hospitals.
Although it may be a long bus ride north tonight, the protesters say the fight will continue, fearing if privatisation wins out in Port Macquarie, the die will be cast for the rest of the state.
It's going to be a battle to the bitter end.
In Sydney, Scott Bevan, NBN News.
The Consumer Affairs Minister told Parliament that in the last 2 years more than 315 complaints have been received about motor accident mutual insurance. The company's head office is in Hunter Street, Newcastle. According to the Minister, the company is virtually unknown outside of Newcastle and Western Sydney, but it generates more complaints than national insurers. Chief Executive of MAMI is Alec Young.
Well, naturally I'm very concerned about it and annoyed. I'm concerned at the viciousness of the approach. There's been no approach to my office by the Minister's office.
According to Mrs Chikarovsky, the main areas of concern include excessive delays in the processing of claims, vehicles belonging to Sydney clients being towed to Newcastle for repair without clients' knowledge, the company's failure to respond to clients' inquiries, poor quality repairs, and a rejection of claims for minor technical reasons.
There's no question that every insurer is having some troubles with the western area of Sydney. We've never denied that, but most of those items have been cleaned up.
In her statement to Parliament, the Minister said the department is seeking advice about what can be done to ensure customers are no longer subjected to the grossly unfair treatment this company meters out. In the meantime, she says, I can only warn the public what to expect if they choose to deal with MAMI Insurance, which has more than earned its reputation as the worst insurance company in Australia.
I don't see how she can make that judgment based upon the fact that the information with which she has been supplied would appear to have been erroneous anyhow. So I reject that comment.
Jodie McKay, NBN News.
The Australian team touched down early this morning in Sydney and was instantly swamped by the media, eager to capture that game spirit. Centre of attention, Joseph Walker, the boy from Toronto, who smashed 3 of his own world records on the way to a history-making 9 gold medals. This afternoon, he made it back to the foreshores of his hometown Toronto. Once again, he slapped on a winning grin for the cameras as he proudly displayed his booty. The locals turned out to welcome home their Olympic champion. For the first time, it was sinking in, just what he had achieved in Madrid.
First one was a bit of a buzz. The 9th one felt really great when I got it.
And he made a promise to do just the same and a little bit more at Atlanta in 4 years' time.
Yeah, I'll go back and defend them and probably go on a few extra events next time, win a few more.
Anthony Griffiths, NBN News. The first thing you notice about Girlfriend is that they are fit. I guess they have to be. These 5 young ladies throw themselves about the stage, legs kicking, arms swinging, hair swishing. At the same time, they have to sing. I was feeling a little bit puffed just watching them, so I sat down for a chat. Next month, Girlfriend goes OS for an assault on the European market.
Yeah, we're really excited, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're hoping to do really well, hoping, fingers crossed.
Catapulted from Sydney schoolrooms to stage and screen, these poor girls have had to suffer enormous amounts of adulation.
Yeah, but it's just like a dream. I'm sure every girl dreams that they have flowers at the door, and it's a bit of a fantasy.
A hospital action group was formed to fight what it says is a critical bed shortage at Coffs Harbour. Speakers addressed the crowd at the City Centre Mall this morning. The city's 125-bed hospital was built 20 years ago. Since then, Coffs' population has doubled, but bed numbers haven't. That was until yesterday when the state government announced that 20 new beds would be opened in the city.
We're very pleased with the allocation of another 26 beds to Coffs Harbour.
However, the public meeting called for consultation between the hospital board, the public and the government about the future of the hospital. It also passed a resolution calling for a publicly owned and operated facility.
Our main issue today was to make sure the public was behind us in our push to have the option of a publicly owned and operated hospital built in Coffs Harbour.
2,000 people have signed a petition supporting the need for a publicly owned and operated hospital. It'll be presented to Parliament next week. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Australia opened the scoring in only the 4th minute. ATEC against the scorer. Solomon Islands are renowned for their attack, and 2 minutes later they equalise through Charles Ashley. One all at half-time, but then the avalanche as the Coca-Cola Socceroos went on a goal-scoring spree. Gray in the 60th minute. Followed by captain Paul Wade. The Socceroos continued with further goals to Brown and Jurakovic for the 6-1 hiding.
Shattered friends sat disbelieving late this afternoon. A camping trip turned to tragedy, their mate trapped under 2 metres of sand.
Quite horrific when we first showed up. There were a lot of his friends and civilians trying to dig away the sand. The main problem was that the sand kept coming in around him.
More than 40 people joined the rescue effort, using their bare hands to try and dig the man out. It was an uphill battle.
Being dry sand, it was sort of 2 steps forward and 1 step backwards, so to speak.
The man's head was uncovered. Paramedics worked to revive him, but they say he died of suffocation. His name hasn't been released.
Just over 2,000 football fans were bathed in sunshine but rugged up against a chilly southwest breeze as the Coca-Cola Socceroos back for the first half. And after only 4 minutes, the Socceroos' Greg Brown's cross was perfectly weighted to Ian Gray. His header found Itek Gench in space and his shot superb. Solomon Islands loved to attack and they swung into action through Omakirio 2 minutes later. Omakirio did well to get the ball to Charles Ashley. He beat Ivanovic and it was 1-1. Pushing forward on every occasion, the Socceroos nearly went ahead. Gary Hasler's header forcing Batai to make a good save. Hasler was in the thick of it again, his punishing left foot giving Gench the chance, but he couldn't get a clear header and it was forced wide. And in one of the rare opportunities in the match, Natai stripped Stewart of the ball, found Varto in space, but his shot was over the top. Seconds later, Varto had another crack at beating Franken. His chip shot this time again clearing the bar. Just before half-time, Gary Hasler should have scored from the corner. 1-1 at the break and then the floodgates opened. Damien Murray made the break down the right. His cross was flicked back, falling nicely for Gray, who found Gench on the left, and his delicate lob into the area was met by Carl Viet. Back to Gray following up, goal number 2 to the Coca-Cola Socceroos. Again the Socceroos pressed forward and Brown found himself with possession. In a patient build-up, Alistair Edwards crossed into the area and Wade was Johnny on the spot for the Aussies' third. So the Socceroos were home comfortable winners and went on to score another 3 to Brown, Jurakovic and Viet. Final score, Australia 6, Solomon Islands 1. And history will show that North scored 2 of the goals, but unfortunately for Dion Bayman, an own goal helped Atunga on the way to the flag. The Mushies kept up the attack and really put the Companions under enormous pressure, and they were finally forced to clear. Then a dubious penalty to the Companions, and it was 1-1. It looked as though North had taken the lead, but the linesman had his flag up and the goal was disallowed. But the Mushies hit back. John Barnden's brilliant cross found Leon Maguire and he made a sensational header. Final score, Atunga 2, North Companions 1. Today was the 21st running of the Nambucca Valley First National Junior and Sub-Junior Championship and the turnout stunned organisers. Play was over 18 holes for the juniors and the cadets played 9 holes.
This sort of golf is pressure golf and this is what they're going to strike at a later date. And this is what they've got to try and handle at these younger fellows, these little fellows that are 10, 9 years old and 11 years old, they're playing under pressure system that the professional golfers play under the same, and they put themselves under this profession. They become very competitive.
Golf certainly is one of the glamour sports worldwide and is also considered one of the true personal tests. This tournament is designed to help mould the young players' temperament as well as their playing skills.
The state government has bought more than 10 hectares of land on the Spangallo Road site. The land was acquired to meet the demands of the rapidly growing population in the Coffs Harbour area. A new primary and high school complex will be built on the pretty rural property. An untouched rainforest on the land will be preserved and used by students for ecological studies. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
For Moree, runners-up to Corindi in this year's Central Northern Rugby Championship, but they did have a real win. Tony Daly and Ewan Mackenzie as special guests for the big end-of-season bash. The dress was casual as you would expect from a rural community, the banter light and entertaining, and there was a helping hand in the line-out drills. And as television reporters, Daly and Mackenzie make pretty good rugby players.
Right, okay then, well, NBN News, thank you.
There would be a few headaches in Moree today, but the boys will never forget the Wallabies.
Lapidary involves the cutting and polishing of precious stones. The New England Club's annual exhibition was held at Legacy House in Armidale. Thousands of gems were on show. There was a vast range of stones and minerals, including emeralds and crystals. President of the club, Jenny Gill, says the hobby of fossicking and cutting gemstones is surprisingly popular.
It has appeal for people of all age groups, and you can have different levels of participation. That means that everybody can have a go, whether they're very physically fit or not.
And for those turning their hand to a little gold panning, this electrically run machine makes life a lot easier. Those interested are invited to join the New England Lapidary Club. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
They're not top secret, but they were hidden under camouflage netting. 6 of the Army's new Hamel L118 field guns. The Hamels are the 105mm replacement for the howitzer, which has been in service since 1977. The guns roared from positions across the range and are capable of dropping shells with accuracy up to 17 kilometres away. The projectiles can be fitted with anti-personnel heads that scatter on impact, or with time-delayed armour-piercing charges set to blow seconds after penetrating a target. More than 60 regular and reserve troops practice on the guns, many of the personnel from the 113 Field Battery Unit based at Adamstown.
Workers' Club hierarchy was hard to track down today, being tied up in meetings for much of it. Yesterday, the annual general meeting passed a vote of confidence in the present board, and the president, Peter Barrack, echoed that feeling then.
The record of this board is impeccable, and I think that anyone that wanted to check that out would find that that's the case.
Retrenchments and cutbacks in casuals hours are inevitable tomorrow. With the club's income healthy, the fundamental problem is overstaffing.
The club is trading well, and for some unknown reason, the staffing levels in the club are horrendous.
The fortunes of other licensed clubs in the region vary, with some, like the Cardiff Workers' Club, undergoing months of restructuring in the hands of consultants. And Newcastle Leagues Club is finding its patronage is good, but their spending is at rock bottom. Secretary-Manager Glenn Maloney attributing that to high pensioner membership. But things are not all bad in clubland.
There are clubs that aren't trading so well, and there's clubs that are trading exceptionally well. My own club's had a record 2 or 3 months. The 16-foot Sailing Club, Wallsend RSL, the Phoenix Club. There are clubs that are having really record times. And some clubs are trading bad. It can't be tied to the recession.
Mr Ferris, who is also Secretary-Manager of Wests and posting record trading figures, says it's a case of knowing your market and going for it.
Not relying so much on the pensioner market or the high youth unemployment. They're the people that are all suffering. So it's a total package, and the people who can point their club to the direction where that income can come through, or their company can be successful.
Brad Godden won't forget today in a hurry. It started with a phone call and the realisation of a dream. He'd been selected in the World Cup squad, along with teammates Mark Sargent and Paul Harrigan. But while Godden tried to get his feet on the earth, his fiancée Jacinta Bell was run off her feet, rearranging their wedding. The couple were meant to tie the knot on October 24, but Brad's selection put paid to that, and the wedding was brought forward to this weekend.
I would have waited, like it didn't worry me. I would have waited till he come back, but everything's turned out okay. Everything's just going to be as it was. On the 24th, it'll be like that this week.
With that problem sorted out, Godden got on with the job of preparing for the biggest challenge of his life, even though it may take a while to sink in.
No, I don't think it has really. I've just been had that many phone calls today, but I'd say tomorrow morning I'll wake up with and it'll just be great.
And although excited about their own selections, Harrigan and Sargent couldn't be happier for their teammate.
It's tremendous. Like as I said, I was very excited and relieved. He must have been doing backflips when he heard it.
You know, it's just going to be a huge event, and all indications are that the ground will be sold out and so forth. So it's just going to be probably the greatest experience in football that any of us have had. And for a young guy like Brad Godden, it's just going to be, you know, something fantastic.
The team flies out for London on Sunday. Matthew White, NBN News.
It was a decision born out of necessity. 23-year-old Anthony Eckert had to move from Newcastle to play in Sydney if he hoped to get selected in the Australian squad. A fortnight ago he played in the Sydney Union Grand Final. His side Gordon looked to have Randwick on the ropes. Eckert also pulled on a blue jumper against Queensland earlier this year. The young half tasted defeat again, but his performances have earned him a test spot on the forthcoming tour of Ireland and Wales.
I actually thought we were going to win that game. We really should have. We lost. We really killed ourselves. We had a very good preparation. We stayed over at the Sanctuary Cove up there. You couldn't get much better, and we really blew that in the last minutes as well.
It's likely, though, Eckert will play second fiddle to Queensland's Peter Slattery.
Peter will obviously start off as the number one halfback, and hopefully I can push him along the way in the tour.
Gavin Doyle and Jeff Manners were in the group of third-year geography students on a week-long excursion in the Cradle Mountain Reserve near Lake St Clair, where 20-year-old Robert Foote fell to his death.
Just basically where we were was probably not a very good space to be, I'd say. It was very slippery, raining and very steep, and just talking and just slipped and fell. It was just a freak accident.
After sliding down a mossy slope, Robert then went over a ledge and into deep, cold water, Gavin and Jeff having to work under the most difficult conditions in their fruitless efforts to save his life.
It was very steep on both sides of the gorge and very cold, so there wasn't very much more that we could do but to work there.
For their efforts, Gavin and Jeff have been recognised by the Royal Australian Life-Saving Society. An award will be presented to them by the Governor in Sydney in a fortnight.
I'm sure we've sort of come to grips with what had happened, and I feel that we both think we did what we could and to our best of our ability to save Rob, and if we hadn't have done what we did, I'm sure we'd be feeling a lot worse about it now.
Student Gabor Neugebauer and his 20-year-old girlfriend Anya Habshid planned to spend 6 weeks in Australia, but when they weren't on board their planned flight home to Frankfurt at the end of January, their families began to worry and travelled to Sydney to search for them. Until now, the last sighting of Gabor and Anya was at King's Cross on Boxing Day. They were supposedly bound for Brisbane, Cairns and eventually Darwin. Their travellers' checks have not been cashed since December, and neither has contacted relatives. Until this week, the search for the two tourists had gone cold. Now it appears they were in Armidale on January the 10th. They had their vehicles serviced here at Brian Dunn Ford.
We just had a couple of German tourists come into the workshop. They had problems with their van and we attempted to fix the car.
It's believed they also went sightseeing around the town.
I have information that persons fitting their description also hired 2 push bikes from the Armidale Bicycle Centre around this time.
Police believe the pair may have been living out of the van as it was full of camping gear.
The vehicle we're seeking is a 1977 Ford Transit van with side windows. Now the paintwork on this vehicle is in poor condition but is generally a purple colour.
Police haven't discounted a link between the missing German tourists and the deaths of 2 British backpackers whose bodies were found less than 2 weeks ago.
However, it's a possibility that we are not ignoring.
Both Anya and Gabor wear nose rings. It's believed Gabor may have grown a beard and Anya has a shock of red hair. Anyone with information should contact Armidale Police. More than 350 juniors ranging from 10 to 18 years are competing in this week's tournament. In near-perfect tennis conditions, Newcastle's Carly Hunt, serving now, and Melissa Carroll of Canberra fought out the 18 years girls singles. Carly, the tournament's top seed, won the match 6-2, 6-2. In the 12-year girls semi-finals, Kimberly Bryan from Coffs Harbour in the white top took on Kelly Mackerel of Tuggerah. Kimberly won the first set and, after a battle in the second, wrapped up the match 6-1, 7-5. And in the 12 years boys singles, Gosford's Tim Graham is through to the final after defeating Newcastle's Kieran Lorimer 6-love, 6-1. A Burble of Birds is an all-Australian creation, but it's not another scientific book. Author and artist Judy Wilford portrays the birds in watercolours. With her inspiration fired while travelling in the Kimberleys, Judy sketched a lot of the birds on site, then later painted the works at her new home in Armidale. After being encouraged to publish the book by a friend, it took months to complete.
I really love looking at the detail and the texture and bringing things to life in a different medium. That's, to me, my kind of art.
When asked why paint birds, Judy replies,
"Wouldn't everyone love to fly? And they're so beautiful, they're just so delicate. And even the largest bird, our wedge-tailed eagle, when you look at it closely, it is such a delicate piece of machinery. And right down to the tiniest little finches, they have a wonder about them that is an enchantment that you just can't ignore."
The 58-page hardback includes 20 full-colour prints of original paintings and is divided into 4 bird groups: the honeyeaters, flycatchers, wrens and finches. With this task now completed, Judy is looking to the future.
I think another volume is rattling around in the grey matter at the moment. probably on birds of the New England area. And yes, I'm sure it'll be as big a delight to do as this one has been.
Super sedans, modified rods, street stocks, as well as a 50-lap enduro for street cars and a demo derby will raise the curtain for the first big meeting of the 92-93 season. Many new cars will debut. Stu Robertson discards his Corvette for the latest Falcon, and ISP champion Don McEwen is changing his race-winning Camaro for a Falcon. It's sure to be a Ford versus Holden battle at the Motordrome, with Ron Pine and Gunnedar's Alan Baker leading the charge for the General.
Pollack signed a 2-year deal with the club earlier this week. His previous club in Holland received the transfer fee, the Dutch FA was told, but it hasn't told the Australian Federation, so Pollack can't play.
There's nothing we can do about it. We can't telephone them direct. It's got to be between federations, so we're just keeping our fingers crossed that later on this afternoon that we can make contact and then we'll fax us.
What's more, Newcastle won't have Socceroo Brad Maloney either. He's halfway to Holland.
His mind was half here and half over there, and I think it was better that he went, so he's literally up in the air as we speak, flying across to Holland, so obviously we're going to be without him.
So, for the young breakers, it's going to be a baptism by fire, up against the physical Wollongong outfit.
It's a chance they've been dreaming of, and hopefully they will take it with both hands.
But Coach Stahl has more than selection headaches to contend with. He's going to have to change his whole game plan.
Yeah, I'll probably differ slightly from what I might have done against Wollongong, but that won't change the fact that I believe in attack and we'll go out there and attack tonight, but probably just slightly from different areas.
Newcastle's other new recruit, Warren Spink, is still out with injury, so tonight the Breakers will be living by the motto, you can't miss what you've never had. Two, 7 and 6 the placings in the Epsom. The Quinella paid $60.20, the trifecta $709.20. Race 4 at Randwick was the Spring Champion Stakes, and it all happened as Gary Harley predicted. Placings 1, 3 and 4. The Quinella a miserly $1.90. The trifecta not much better, $16.20. At Flemington, race 7 was the Turnbull Stakes. The placings 5, 4 and 8. The Quinella, handsome, $110.60. The trifecta, $2,206.40.